Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, joining us from from whichever space you're using. Maybe you're on live on Facebook. Welcome for a Kodular session in Android programming, that is creating applications using Kodular. That's what you're going to learn today. This live session is meant for Nakuru and Lamu, but feel free to join us. Feel free to join us. So we are going to have a little bit of introduction about Kodular, and also about what to expect this month and what you're going to learn more. Okay. Okay, great. So I'll take you through the introduction of mobile application development with Kodular, and also speak about what is expected of you as a developer or as a coder at American Spaces Kenya. What is expected of you, what you're supposed to create, and things like that. So we are going to learn, within this month, you're going to learn about mobile application development with Kodular, and you're also going to learn about Python programming to create web applications with it. So that is what you expect this month. Of course, there is more to come. Last month or last year, you were learning about web development. Now, this year, you're going to learn, this month specifically, you're going to learn about mobile application development with Kodular, and you're also going to learn about Python programming. And next month, there is more to come. You'll learn about cybersecurity. So you're going to learn, basically, you're going to learn about technologies, okay? You're going to learn about coding and technology at large, and data science as well, things to do with cybersecurity and data science. That is coming next month. And after these trainings, you are expected to create an innovative solution around the area of your interest. So for example, let's say last year or last month, you learned about web programming and you liked it, okay? You find that that is your area of strength, or that is the area you want to innovate with. You specialize in web development. Maybe you are learning about data science and you feel like, God, this is the area I want to specialize and create a solution with. That is what you will specialize on. Additionally, maybe you also learned about Python programming or mobile programming. So we don't expect solutions that you just come up with them, but there are some areas that we really encourage you to think around and come up with solutions. So these areas are around health, economy, democracy, and security. Of course, we highly encourage you to think out of the box and create your own apps at your own time, your own solutions at your own time. But for the sake of the American Spaces, the American Spaces program, we highly encourage you to create solutions using in the areas that we've mentioned. That is health, economy, democracy, and security. Or security, you choose one. And you also choose one technology that you find you are stronger, or you find that you want to innovate with, okay? So that's what I will say about the Coders at American Spaces. And the program, of course, is called Coders at American Spaces Kenya, sponsored by American Spaces Kenya, and Pwani Techno Girls is the one conducting the program. So I'll dive right in so that we can begin with mobile app development with Kodular. And my name is Joan Nabusoba, and I'm the Professional Development Director of Pwani Techno Girls. And in the meeting, we have amazing facilitators. That is Mr. Brighton Masaru and Madam Latifa Noor. So you'll hear from them in a short while, okay? So feel welcomed, and let's do this. Let's do this. Great. So mobile programming or mobile app development with Kodular. We are going to also look at what is Kodular and what other tools are out there. Okay, what is Kodular and what other tools are out there that will enable you uh, to create apps other than Kodular, so that you at your own time, let's say after this program, you've learned about Kodular, you've learned about basics of programming, and you want to go and explore other programming languages. What will you, or what is the way to go? Okay, so Kodular. What is Kodular? Kodular is one of the non-coding tools for creating mobile applications, or specifically Android applications. Okay, so what do I mean by non-coding tools? For coding tools, you basically have to install a lot of packages, write some code, type in some code, think out the logic as you are typing in some code. But with the non-coding tools, these packages are already pre-installed somewhere in a server, okay? They're already pre-installed somewhere in a server. So your work is just to come into the application, create logic, using components and services, so that you build up your app using that logic. So it's a bit of similar concept. If, for example, you're creating a mobile app, let's say you're creating a mobile app with a coding tool, and you're also creating a mobile app with a non-coding tool, you'll find that they perform similar functions because both of them are using certain services to build up your application. Okay, so with Kodular, Kodular is one of the non-coding tools. Okay, okay, and then we have also we are going to also look at other non-coding tools and coding tools, and we highly encourage you to go ahead and explore these tools on your own. So where do you find Kodular? More information about it or how to get started, you go to www.kodular.io. We are going to go to kodular.io in a short while. And then worth mentioning, the moment you're creating Android application is governed by specific design rules, okay? So that your application looks native to Android, so that your application isn't alien. When someone installs your application, they find that it doesn't look like how the phone looks like. So those guidelines are found in material.io. We are going to look at that in a short while. So material.io, or rather material design, these are guidelines for Android, creating Android applications. And I highly encourage you at your own time to have a look at them, so that when you create your Android application, you have some rules in mind. Of course, we don't encourage you to just stick on the rules. Feel free to grow your wings and break some here and there. But remember that material guidelines is for, or material design is for Android. For iOS, there is one we call Cupertino design guidelines. You can have a look at it also at your own time. Now, uh, other tools for mobile application development. What are other tools for mobile application development? So for non-coding tools, we have this Kodular, we have MIT App Inventor, and you also have Thunkable. And Thunkable is the is a cross-platform tool whereby you drag and drop. There are many other tools out there, and some you will pay, but for these are open source. That is MIT, Thunkable, and Kodular, whereby you'll create your applications for without paying some, I don't know, monthly subscription or something of that sort. They're open source. They're given to you for free to innovate. Okay. Now we have coding tools, and with coding tools, it is broken down into two major categories, whereby you will be coding natively. What do I? There is native coding, whereby you create applications that directly interact with the native components of the device that you are creating with. And then there is the cross-platform tools, whereby there is a bridge in between. There is a bridge in between before it reaches to the native components. So nowadays, our phones and our devices have grown so much in a way that even the cross-platform tools functions just as fast. Okay, so that's what we highly encourage you. If you choose a cross-platform tool and a native tool, they will both serve you depending on what you are creating. There isn't one tool that is better than the other. Rather, of course, native is much what I can say is it's much stronger if you want to perform tasks that consume the hardware tools, but cross-platform, they really do well, and you can also create great applications with them. So with the non-coding tools, the server code, or rather the setup, makes it in a way that when you compile your application, it becomes a native application. That is the MIT App Inventor. When you build an app with MIT App Inventor, it becomes native in your phone. Okay, also Thunkable and Kodular. So when you go to coding tools, the native tools are the ones that, the ones that you can build your application with, are worth mentioning here. Like for Android, or for creating Android applications, we have Android, that is Java for Android, and also we have Kotlin. You can build native applications with Android and Kotlin, okay? Android, Java for Android, and Kotlin. So you just install Android Studio, and you have this. Of course, there is a process. There are some processes of installing Android Studio as an integrated development environment, and also some Java application itself. There are some apps that you have to install, and more of this you can just find, you can just search, go and search at on Google of how to get started with Java for Android, or how to get started with Kotlin. You'll find that there are some steps, very easy to follow, and yeah, it's doable. So that is Android. And then we have iOS. The ones to if you want to build an app native to iOS, there is Objective-C and there is Swift. So with Android, you can build your app if you have a Linux machine, or if you have a Windows machine, or a Mac machine. But for iOS, you strictly have to have a Mac machine. Okay, yeah, that's a bit of something that I think you need to know. So if you want to build an iOS application, you have to get a Mac machine. There are other ways, hacks, but it will just it will just stress you, or something of that sort. So these are native coding tools. Then we have cross-platform tools, and the one that is my favorite is Flutter. I'm not saying this so that it is your favorite. I encourage you to create your own path. Okay, to create your own path in terms of, in terms of coding as well, because other tools are also amazing. So Flutter is created by, or runs through Dart. Dart is a programming language which is similar to C code. Okay, and then we have React Native. React Native is by Facebook. Flutter is by Google. React Native is by Facebook. You can also create cross-platform applications using React Native and Native Script as well. So React Native is written in JavaScript, Native Script as well. Then Ionic is also a cross-platform tool. Worth mentioning, there is a Windows tool called it is called, let me remember, Xamarin, and it's written in C#. You can create a cross-platform application using it. You can create an Android application using C#, an iOS application. You find it that it's much, you can also create an application with it. So what are we going to learn today? We are going to learn about how to create an application, a travel application, a very simple or basic application, so that we can introduce ourselves to the tools that are there, to the tools that are in Kodular platform itself, so that we can familiarize ourselves. So when you go to innovate your application, or when you go to create your application, let's say you have chosen to create an application with Kodular, or you've chosen to innovate using Kodular. So you'll have an easy time, at least, when we learn by doing. So that's what coding is. I highly encourage you to do. When you want to create an application, or when you want to learn a programming language, you create something. Think of a small idea and then create it. I think that is the best way to learn, rather than just reading through the documentation. So I welcome questions. If you have any questions so far, feel free, post it in the chat, post it in the, you can message us directly. Feel free. We will know, and we will reach out to you immediately when we find your question. So I want us to proceed now to Kodular.io. Okay, maybe before we go to Kodular.io, just worth mentioning, because we are creating Android application, you can find or you can read about material design on material.io. We have placed the link in the description of the video, and we are also going to share with you the link of the link of material design, so that at your own time, just go and have a look at it. But it is material.io. That's where you find the design guidelines for creating Android applications or creating apps using material design guideline. So you can find that there are design rules there. uh, you can have a look at them, like what to expect, or how to, you can create a dark themed application, and you can also, you can also find the best way you can theme a light themed user interface. Okay, and then we have components. Components are basically uh, the tools that are found in the applications, and that's what you're going to interact a lot with when you're going to create apps with Kodular, like bottom navigations. We have up bars and side navigations. We have banners. We have buttons, texts, cards. How, or what is the best way to create them if you're using material design guidelines? So just worth mentioning, you can have a look and at your own time as well. Great. So to get started, go to Kodular.io. Let me open a new link so that we can be together. Kodular.io. Let me close that one. So go to Kodular.io. So when you are at Kodular.io, okay, as I'm giving you time to open the link, when you're at Kodular.io, you'll find more information and more resources whereby they can be helpful for you to create an application. And in most languages, you'll find that a community, you won't lack a section where there is a community, okay? So a community is, of course, it's just like the way we aim at Coders at American Spaces Kenya. We create a community of coders so that we can support each other, so that we can innovate together. And if you encounter a problem, it is easier to ask someone who has done that specific language or that specific tool. So in Kodular, there is a community whereby you can search for, if you encounter a problem before you post it in the community, you can search for it first. And of course, there is the favorite, Stack Overflow. You can find solutions in Kodular. The moment you experience a problem, you can just search and find a solution. And a community is, yeah, it will guide you, and you can even find sample apps and extensions for you to use. That is Kodular community. Other than the community, you can find other tools like extensions there. You can even go to the store whereby you can find applications. I'm not sure if that link works. I went there, I think yesterday or a few moments ago. It's I don't know. But there is a place where you can find some resources in which you can purchase and use specifically in Kodular. Okay, and then you can also read more about Kodular, how far, or especially in the docs section. A good language provides a good documentation, or a good tool provides a good documentation for you to be able to create apps with. So, okay, yeah, I think the store.kodular does not work. It's okay. I think, yeah, but there is the documentation. Where is it? Just a minute. Yes, docs.kodular.io. The link also is in the video's description. With docs, you can be able to find the tools, or you can be able to find the components. You can find you can also find a guide there on how best you can use or you can understand Kodular. So the moment you find that maybe there is something that you feel we have not mentioned and you want to learn, we have docs.kodular. Okay, come and carve your path here by learning more about it also on your own. So this guide, you'll understand about Kodular even more in the design section, the block section, and things like that. They will explain further. So that is the docs.kodular.io. We have components. In the components section, that's where you find the categories that we are going to look at in a short while. We won't mention everything, but we highly encourage you to come here. We'll mention the ones that we will use a lot, but we highly encourage you to come at your own time and explore this and explore more in this section. So we have the components and how you can use them. We have the components and how you can use them. So for example, you want to know more about the screen as a component. When you click there, you can find more details about it. What is a screen as a component and what are the events in the screen, or what can you create using a screen. Then you can also, if let's say you want to look about let's say circular progress as a component in the user interface category, you can just click on it and read about it. What is it about and how you can utilize it? For example, if you want to create your application with. So everything is, not everything rather, but you are given most of the components here, and it is well written. So you can find more details here at docs.kodular.io. We have shared that as well. So let's get started. I'm sure with those chit chats, you've been able to open kodular.io link. So for you to get started, click on Create Apps. Fantastic. So it will come to an authentication page, and you can be able to create an account first. So you can directly click on create an account, or if you don't want to put name, email, and stuff like that, you can just sign in using your socials. That is your Google, your GitHub, or your Twitter account. Okay, I prefer that one. I prefer that way. And also, when you're creating applications, it's, I think, sometimes good to include this. I mean, third-party logins. Of course, when you secure it well. So I think I prefer using Google, but you can feel free. You can use GitHub or Twitter. So I'll just choose Google. Great. And then I'll use I'll use a Pony Technogirls account. Fantastic. So yeah, you'll be taken to a page like this, and then you can authorize. Great, we are almost there. We are almost there. So these are the terms of service. You can find them later in the, of course, in the Kodular page. You can find them there. You can have you can read them later. I highly encourage you to be readers. Read a lot. I don't know if who reads terms and conditions, but yeah, why not? Agree. Of course, it's not good for you to not know what you are putting yourself into. So it's just good for you to read terms and conditions. And then, yeah, you click on Let's Go pop-up. So this is a fresh new installation of Kodular, or rather using your account, not installation as such, but you've created, you have gone to a Kodular workspace using your account. And so after we have created, or let's say it's the second time that we'll be coming in, you'll just be signing in. So if you created an account using your name, email, and password directly, you'll just be logging in directly. Or if you created your account using your socials, you'll just be joining in directly and continue from where you stopped. Great. Now, for you to get started completely, that is a fresh new start, you click on create project. Or if you are new, or if you're not new, or you have some project that you want to import, you can just click there. So let's click on create project. And we said we are going to create a travel application. So I'll just give it a name called travel, but feel free to give it any name of your choice. It can be, let's say, travel app, or yeah, whichever name that is custom to you. But the aim of this sample application is just for us to familiarize ourselves with it. But at your own time, feel free to come back and create a new project of your own liking and explore even further. So type in the words, let's say travel, or you can even type in the word travel app. Just remember that the project name shouldn't have spaces. If you want to separate two words, you can use an underscore, but it's not a must for you to separate two words. You can just put the words together. Yeah, like that. So I'll just call mine travel and then click on next. So this is where you configure your project further. Like if you want to choose a theme, a light themed project, you can choose that, or a dark themed project. And this will be possible. For example, if you are creating an application and your phone, like you're installing it in a phone that is Android 8.0 and above, it is easier for you to change the theme of the application of the entire phone to be either a dark themed phone or a light themed phone. But for people like some of us who have less Androids like 7.0 and below, that is not an option in the settings. So yeah, you can create an application that is dark themed. Yeah, so I'll just leave mine at default. And then the minimum SDK or the minimum Android version, you have to always choose that, but it's okay. By default, it is Android 4.4. It's a lower version of Android. So you can just leave it as it is. This is what most applications in Play Store choose, Android 4.4. But you can go lower. You can go lower. There is no option of going lower here. But if you're creating natively, you can go lower. Then for package name, there's no need for you to touch it because it's what is a package name? It's just worth mentioning. It is a unique uh, it's a unique project link. It's a unique project link to your application. For example, you're building an application for Pony Techno Girls organization. So the package name is advisable to be always the URL of the organization. In this case, it is org.ponytechnogirls. That will be the package name. But if you don't have one, or if, yeah, which will still work, it by default, it will be com.example. Yeah. So primary colors are the ones that will be in the app bar, buttons. They're the ones that are primarily in the application. And we also have primary dark, which will be at the top of the status bar. There's no need of you touching that, but you can feel free to change this later at screen 1 after you've created your application. Then, of course, there is the accent color to match with the primary color. So after here, I've not touched anything there. I'll just click finish. It will create your application and build it. Fantastic. So I'll just close that. So this is what you'll be able to see. This is what you'll be able to see when you create your application, or when you create your project, rather, not an application, when you create your project. And there is the designer section. Where is it? Yeah, there is the designer section that is active, the one that is active at the top. Of course, you can navigate on a few components or a few links at the top, whereby in projects, you can be able to see your projects there. You can test your application using various methods. We'll reach to testing I think in the later class. You can export your application into an Android app and install it in your phone. You can also build it into an app bundle if you want to upload it on Play Store. Then, of course, there is help if you encounter any issues. There are some useful links at the top there. You can directly reach the community, the docs there. You can donate to the Kodular community, and this is where you find your account. Now, this is the designer section of Kodular, and there are 4 major regions there. So we have the palette section at the extreme left. There is the palette section there where there are those categories that we were talking about. That is the categories whereby you find the components that you are going to use to create your mobile applications. So that is the palette section. We are going to have a look at them and discuss them in a few before we start, before we dive into create the application. Then we have the viewer section, the second from the left, viewer section. That is where, for the visible components, you will be able to see you'll be able to see how they look like so that you can customize them in the properties section at the extreme right. So as we said, a screen itself is a component. So you can customize it as well and change the properties. So that is the viewer section. And the default font there, or the default font used in the viewer section is Google Pixel 3. But you can change that to any other font that you prefer. Like that is a Lexus, LG Nexus, not Lexus. Lexus is a car. LG Nexus F5X. Then we have Samsung Galaxy, or if you want something bigger, you can use a tablet. My screen isn't so huge but to accommodate that. Yeah, but you can use a tablet, or yeah, like Microsoft Surface. I'll just use what is convenient for my screen, or the one that is there by default. Google Pixel 3. Fantastic. And then we have the components section that will provide you with a list of the components that you have used in your application. Both the visible and non-visible components will be visible in here, like will be listed in the components section. But for non-visible components, you won't be able to see them here, but you'll be able to see them on runtime. So the moment you use a non-visible component, you'll have to program it in a way that if a user performs certain action, that is where they'll be able to, that is when they'll be able to see it. So this is the viewer section, component section, whereby it will be a list of the components, both visible and non-visible, that you'll be using. And then this is the properties section, whereby you give your components properties like colors, font size, yeah, things like that, width, height, and so on and so forth. So screen 1 is the entry point of the application. So it will be a bit different with other screens, because that's where you'll put in your application, your app name. Now, by default, it will just give you the application name based on the project name that you used when you're creating the application, but you can change it here. Let's say if you want to say travel mashinani or travel mtaani, I'm just giving an example, like for example, that is your app name, okay? Travel mtaani. So you can change it there, and then you can change the app icon from here, from screen 1. So screen 1 is a special screen. You can change the app icon there by uploading a file and give it your app, give your app an app icon. Then you can also change the version. For example, you've created an application, you've launched it in Play Store, and then you have improved it. You can change the version. Let's say the version is 1, and then you change it to 1.1. Okay, let's say you fixed a bug, you change it to 1.2, things like that. Or you can even migrate to even 2 if there is a huge change in your application. Yeah, so that's just worth mentioning. So before we get started and start creating our travel application, of course, I highly encourage you to drop your questions in the message. If you have any questions, we'll reach out to you and answer it immediately. But okay, let's look at the components in the designer section. Just worth mentioning, there is the block section in which we'll interact with in the coming section, but this is the section where you build your logic. This is the section where you create the logic of the application and make it interactable. Like a user can use now your application. The user interface is the looks, and then the logic is now the business end, whereby you, if a user performs a certain action, you make decisions there. You create your logic in the blocks section. Rather, let me call it the backend, the backend of this application. Now let's go back to the front end, that is the designer section. So we are at the palette section. The first category is the user interface section, whereby we have the user interface components, like a button, a checkbox. A button is used when you click. A button is, you can use a button for click events. If a user performs certain action, they can click to move next, something like that. Then you have a checkbox. Checkboxes, I am sure you've interacted with them, like you can check to accept terms and conditions, or let's say you're checking a certain list. You can use it in whichever way you feel it is suitable. But if it is a group of items, a checkbox, you can select one or more items. Then we have circular progress. Circular progress is used, for example, a user is performing a certain action and there is something loading in the backend, like performing a query in the internet. You make them wait a little bit so that that action is finished fast. Yeah, that is the use of progress. So we have circular progress, custom progress, and also linear progress bar. The difference between circular and linear and this custom one, for linear progress bar, you'll be able to let the user know the extent of which that process has reached. You can, by that bar loading, if it reaches the end, it means that that process is complete. Great. So we have date picker. Let me mention date picker and time picker at the same time, because we live in different worlds. In Kenya, we might have learned that the date is, you write first, you first write the date, the day, the month, then the year. But in other people, they can start with month. Maybe you are used to write 2021 in full, or just writing 21. Some have to write in, they have to shorten it. So that is, there'll be some inconsistencies in your app if you just let it be free to the user to type in the date and the time. So that's why you have date picker and time picker for uniformity. Great. Then you have floating action button. I'm sure most of you have interacted with it. Like in WhatsApp, when you want to create a new message, you click on the floating action button somewhere there. I wish I would share my screen, but I'll do that later. And then we have image to display images, and an image in Kodular, you can make it clickable. So let's say you want to make an image clickable. It is possible. We are going to have a look at that in a short while. So labels, they hold texts. They're there to display texts. Then we have list picker. List picker is whereby you create, when someone clicks on it, it's similar to a button, but when you click on it, it creates a full screen pop-up for you to select an option. Then we have a notifier. A notifier is a non-visible component. So for example, what do I mean by non-visible component? The moment you drop it there, it won't be directly visible in the screen, because it is one of the components that only shows, or only is only visible to the user when a particular action has been performed. It is used to notify the user on the actions that they have done or the actions that is taking place. For example, a notifier can be used as a loader to make the user wait for when a particular action is running in the background. It can be used to display error information. It can be used to display success information. But this information only happens when a user has performed a certain action. So that's why it is a non-visible component. Great. I hope we now know the difference between a visible and a non-visible component. That is a notifier. Then we have a radio button. Yeah, radio button is majorly used if you're using it in a group, it's majorly used to select just one action. For example, between male and female, or between, let's say, classes. Let's say you're in Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, Form 4. You can select just one. You can't be in Form 2 and Form 3 at the same time. Great. And then we have rating bar. If you want, if your application, you want to rate some certain services, something like that, you'll have a rating bar. Then we have a slider whereby you can show, the user can slide to indicate the progress. For example, it is majorly used for the apps that I know in health applications. For example, you want to select the number of, let's say the height, your height. You'll have to drag it so that it reaches the height that you are, that your height. But it is basically, slider has the minimum and the maximum details. So I'm just giving this as an example. We have the snack bar. Snack bar will be showing you notifications that will be popping up from the bottom. And then we have a spinner. Spinner is very similar to list picker, but it is a drop down whereby you select a particular option. Then we have spotlight, whereby it darkens a particular area of the screen, or it darkens on a particular component. We have state progress bar, is a bit similar to the progress that we have talked about. We have a switch whereby you can choose between two actions. We have a text box that we will be using a lot to capture user input data. And then we have time picker that we have just mentioned. And then when you want to arrange items in your screen, it is worth mentioning about the layout section. And in the layout section, we have 4 categories in the layout section. And there is the general section whereby you can create card views. You can create a grid view in a way that you arrange your items in a grid, or you arrange your items in a card. I'm sure most of you have seen business cards. Uh, that is technically what we mean by card view, or your IDs. You can put an image somewhere, text somewhere, component somewhere, something like that. And in material.io, you can see, I think the examples of cards there on material.io. It's there. So you can, if you don't know about cards, you can have a look at how they look like. Let me see if it will load. Yeah, there. So let's see if it's going to show. Yeah, something like that. A card title, secondary text. You can put an image. You can put text and buttons. That's just an example of, yeah, card view, something like that. Fantastic. So we have grid view, horizontal arrangement. If you want your items to be arranged horizontally, use horizontal arrangement. And if your items are scrolling endlessly, use horizontal scroll arrangement. Then we have space. Space, you're going to use it a lot to space between components. Let's say if you've put a text and a button, or a text, an input text and a button. You have to create a space in between so that it is neatly arranged in your screen. Then there is the swipe to refresh layout. You easily use it if you have some data that needs updating. It's just like Google's, what do we say? It is like if you go to Chrome, Chrome likes the swipe to refresh layout. If you refresh, or if you pull down, you will be able to see it refreshing and fetch new data. Then you have table arrangement to arrange your data in rows and columns. We have vertical arrangement to arrange your items vertically, and then vertical scroll arrangement, whereby your items will be scrolling vertically. So by default, items in a screen is arranged vertically by default. So other sections, we have lists. If you want a list view and a list view with image and text, we have navigation. This is very important. I highly encourage you to explore this, because this is what makes Kodular more, what I can say is it makes it have more functionalities, because you can use a bottom navigation. And these are what we call also there's rather a bit what we call a non-visible component because you'll have to customize it further. But yeah, this is a bottom navigation. You can use bottom navigation in your screen. You can also use side menu layout. Yeah, of course, it's among a non-visible component as well. And with side menu, you can put a menu or a list of items that people can interact with your screen. And then we also have tab layout. Tab layout, whereby you can display different sections of the screen. The way WhatsApp is, like we have the chat section, we have the statuses section, and we have the calls section. We just by a scroll event or by clicking at the top of the tabs. So that is a tab layout. Then we have Viewpager. Viewpager is a bit similar to tab, but you just scroll to display items on the other sides of the page. So this is worth mentioning and exploring. And I know time will allow and we can have a quick look at them so that you can see how to dynamically create this. So we also have views. There is the chat view, whereby if you're creating a chat application, it will be a chat between two people, okay? Bottom sheet, when you click on a button, it shows a list of items that you are supposed to click. So have a look at them. Have a look at them at your own time. I'll just mention as a few. In the media section, we have all the media components like audio picker, camcorder, camera, exoplayer. Exoplayer is by Google, which is a bit faster. We have image picker if your application picks an image from the device. We have metadata to show the file's description and more information about the file, like it was created by who, things like that. Okay, then optical character recognition. If you want your phone or if you want your application to be reading information or to be reading details about a specific image, the text that are in a specific image, that is great. That will be, you can use optical character recognition. So I have a fantastic question from the chat from Nuru. How do you specify if you want an app to be in the category of music, travel, or shopping? Oh, great. That's a great question, Nuru. So your application in the categories, or for example, if you've created an application, you have to have an intent, okay? What do you intend to create? That's one thing you have to bear in mind. For example, you want an application to serve a particular purpose. Like for example, in our application here, we want to give users information that like when they travel, they can be able to find one or two things. They can be able to find locations, to do a few stuff. That is just an example. That category, you'll have a travel category. Let's say you're creating an application that gives people can be able to buy items. That is a music, or you can't call it a music application, of course. When you're hosting it in Play Store, you'll find categories. Like music, it will be put in a category called utilities, something like that. They'll give you a description and an example of the application. So if you're creating an application right now, you don't have to specify the category right there in the application. You just create it. And then when it's time for you to launch, you'll be able to see some detailed description of where exactly or which category you have to select for your application. So that's what I'll highly encourage. When you're creating an application, don't even think so much. And just worth mentioning, for coders at American Spaces, you'll have to innovate with solutions around health, economy, democracy, and security. But of course, we encourage you, like at your own time, feel free and create your own solutions. But the ones that you are to submit for coders at American Spaces, if you choose, let's say you want to innovate in mobile application, you just choose in those 4 areas, or even data science, or in other areas like Python and also web programming. Okay, I hope maybe I've answered. I hope I've answered your question. So that's how you identify your category. Right now, you don't need to when you're innovating or when you're creating your application. Great. That's an awesome question. That's an awesome question. Awesome. So these are what we call media tools that you can use in your application. And this sound is important. For example, you want your application to make a particular sound as such, a particular sound. If a notification arrives, you'll have to use sound in your application. Great. Then you have drawing and animation, worth exploring because you can create an animation or an you can create an animation or a gaming application, but I won't go deep there. I'll just mention Lottie. Lottie is one of my favorite tools because you can provide a link, a URL to an animation, or you can upload a JSON file which is animated, and it will display there. Okay, yeah. So that's just worth mentioning. If you want, let's say, your application to have an animation there, you'll be able to find, or rather, you can be able to use Lottie. Lottie. So I like the name. Great. Now let's go to maps. You can use maps in your application as well. Then you can use sensors. You can use a clock, fingerprint readers. We have barcode reader. Let's say your application is POS, and you want people to scan items and put them in the, let's say, in the system. Barcode reader, one of an amazing tool or an amazing service that you can use. So there are so many. At your own time, have a look at it. There is this speedometer orientation sensor. There are so many sensors that you can interact with. Then there is the social, whereby push notifications, of course. If there is an action that you want the user to be notified immediately, they take place. Let's say, for example, a message, and someone sends you a message on WhatsApp. You'll be able to hear a tone and view it in the status bar. That is what we call push notifications. Then you have other social items there, like phone call, sharing, and so on. Storage, we are going to use it a lot. A TinyDB, there is also SQLite. Kodular has SQLite. We have spreadsheet, file, Cloudinary, and TinyWebDB. We'll interact more with them. We also have utilities. You can have a look at them at your own time. And then dynamic components, like you can have a dynamic button. Dynamic means that they change depending on the condition of the program, the condition that you have placed in the program. We have also connectivity, like activity starter. You can open a new application using that, or you can perform particular actions with it. You can have a look at them at your own time. We might use activity starter a lot. If you're familiar to Internet of Things, there is Arduino. You can use it when you're using Kodular. Then you have Google. We'll use Firebase database at some point, or Google Maps, YouTube Player, Google services, basically. Then you have monetization, like you can put advertising in your application, or you can put some in-app billing, whereby someone can purchase something and directly pay you to your Play Store billing account. Yeah, things like that. And then finally, we have Lego Mindstorms. Uh, and then we have the extension section. If there is a component that hasn't been in the palette section and you want to import it, you can import it there and use it. Fantastic. After all those many words of exploring the palette section, now let us dive in and start creating the application. That's the best way to learn. So if you look at the screen of the application that we want to develop, you'll be able to see that we have we have a register page. We have a register page, then we have a sign-in page, and then we have this page as well. Okay, we have it's basically like the home page, or whichever name you want to give it, the dashboard, whichever page, whichever name, feel free. So we are going to start with the register page. We are going to start with that. So as you can see, it doesn't have an app bar, and then it has an image, a label, a text box, and two buttons. Fantastic. So let's start by creating them. So please note that if I'm going fast, you can let me know and we can go back and do some steps, but I'll do my best to be as detailed as possible so that we can create an application together. So let's dive in. So in that screen, we start with the properties of that screen. And let's start from the top. About screen, we won't do anything. So let's start with the align horizontal, okay? Align horizontal. As you can see there in that page, our items are at the center of the page. Like our items are positioned at the center of the page. So our align horizontal should be center. Just so that you know what we mean by putting our items at the center. When I drop a button there, you find that they're at the top. Vertically, they start from the top, then horizontally, they start from the left. But we can change that. If you want to change that, ensure that the screen component is the one which is selected, and then align horizontal is center. It will push our items towards the center. Then align vertical, we'll leave it at the top. But let's say if your application wants to put items at the center, you can change that, or at the bottom, whichever you feel. But right now we leave it at the top because that's what we are creating as a sample application. So I'll just delete that so that we don't confuse ourselves. Then you can change the app name there. Now let's give it a background color. Let's give it a background color. So as you can see in the application, in this page, our application has a dark blue, purple, don't know. Yeah, feel free. But I think it's a dark purple version of the color. Yeah. So you can play around with the colors there as quickly as possible and choose the darker version of it. I'll just choose that one, I think, and then click set. Yeah, so you'll find that the application is purple, okay? And you can come, if let's say the other screen also has the same background color, you just come there and copy this code there. You copy it and then you paste it there. So for uniformity purposes, or when you click there, you'll find project colors there at the bottom so that your application is uniform. Fantastic. Then background image, if you use a background image, the background color will be overridden. Like the background image will be given a priority. Now for icon, we are going to upload that in a short while, but this icon is the application icon. You won't be able to see it there, but when you install your application, the icon that will be displayed on the screen, the one that the user has to click for it for the application to open, that is the application icon. So think about a good icon and you'll upload it there. Fantastic. Then for primary color, I can see it is still there, what we discussed before. So we can make the app scrollable just in case our components exceed the height of the screen or of the user's screen. You know, your phone might be big, but the user's phone might be small. Okay, then you can scroll down. There is the section where we have title, and check the title visible so that we don't have the app bar at the top. So what have we done? Basically what we did is we aligned horizontal. We at the align horizontal, we selected center. We changed the app name to our liking. Then we went down and checked on scrollable, and then the title visible, we unchecked so that our app bar disappears. So that those are the four major things that we have done on screen one. Fantastic. I'll just repeat. What we have done is align horizontal. You've selected center. The app name, we've changed it to, yeah, to whatever, to, let's say, travel maternity to your liking. Then we went down and checked on scrollable just in case our items exceed the height of the screen. And then we unchecked the title visible. Great. Now, as you can see in the application, there was an image that starts first. So this is what this is how we'll go about it. Because you don't want our image to touch at the top of the screen, we are going to put a space. So go to the layout section of the palette, click on it and select the general option, and then drag a space, drag and drop a space. Click on it, hold and drag and drop it in the screen and give it a height. So we are going to give it a height of about 20 pixels. So you can just type there 20 pixels. Or if you don't, you can just type there 20. It will automatically change to 20 pixels. I hope we are together. Just go to the layout section, the general section, and then drag and drop a space in your screen, and then give it a height of 20 pixels. Then after that, we are going to now put our image icon. So click on the user interface and then look for an image. There is the image there. Drag and drop it in your screen. Give it a height of about 100 pixels and a width of 100 pixels as well. So in height and width, we are going to discuss a bit about it. What do we mean when we give it pixels? What do we mean when we let it fill the screen? What do we mean by giving it percentages? It is exactly what I'm saying it means. Yeah, so yeah, let's give it a height of 100 pixels and a width also of 100 pixels. But for the picture, we'll upload it in a short while. So we have a space and then we have an image. An image is of a height 100 pixels and width 100 pixels. So by default, the items will be called, let's say if you're using space one for the first time, it will be called space one. If you're using an image for the first time, it will be called image one. But we highly encourage you to rename this. Why? Because when you go to the block section, you'll be able to interact with them, or you'll be able to put some backend or some logic in them. So when you rename your component, you'll be able to find you will be able to access them easily at the block section or customize them in a better way at the block section. So if you're using, let's say, 10 buttons in your screen, if you rename it, you'll be able to easily access them. For example, if button 1, if you click on it, it performs. Let's say it logs you in. Button 2, it signs you up. Button 3, it takes you to the let's say to contact us page. So if you rename the buttons, let's say contact button, sign in buttons, it will be easier when you go to the block section. But if it is just button 1, button 2, you'll have a hard time. So let's rename the image. Click on the pencil icon there. Ensure that it is the one that is selected at the components section. That's one thing I really insist, or I'll reiterate. Ensure that it's the one selected at the component section. Click there, and then maybe you can rename it to icon image. Icon image, like that, and then rename it. Though we might not use it in the component section, but we are just learning and indicating that that will be holding an icon. Fantastic. Then after that, go back and to the layout section, and then click on general, and then drag a second space. Drop it just below the icon image and give it a height of 20 as well. I hope we are together. So so far in the screen one, we have space one that of height 20 pixels. We have an image of 100 by 100 pixels. Then we have space two of height 20 pixels. Then, as you can see on the screen, we have a text called with register with us. So that will require a label. So go to the user interface section and then drag and drop a label there. As you can see, it doesn't look like what we saw. So let's start customizing it. It is of a big font. So let's put around, let's say 20, font size 20. Then it is bold. So font bold, font size 20, then typeface. Feel free to choose any of your liking. On my end, I like font awesome 5, but the default for Android, the default font is Roboto regular, but people nowadays, we are free to choose any type of font that we want. And later we'll even learn on how to upload your own custom font, and you can use it as a font typeface. Then for the text, it is register with us. So change that, register with us. And then text color is white. So at the boxes there, you'll be able to see white when you hover on them. Don't select none, white, 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 set. So we have register with us. So for the label, we've just, it's font bold, font size 20. Then we've given it a text register with us and text color white. So you might be wondering, sometimes if you're going to reuse a component, there's no need of us recreating, or there's no need of us sometimes going back to the palette section, dragging and drop it. You can, with Kodular, there is an option of you duplicating or copying and pasting either below or above a particular component. So that's one thing I'll highly encourage you. That's one thing I'll highly encourage you to do. For example, this space, we know that we are putting 20 pixels between components. So you can just right click and copy, and then click on the components there and right click and then choose paste below. I'll repeat. Let me delete that so that I repeat the process. So basically you click on the space 2, or you click on the space, and then the one that you want to duplicate or you want to copy. There is an option of you duplicating, of course. You can click on duplicate and drag it to the position that you want. You can also click on copy and then click on the component that you want to paste either above or below. In this case, we want to paste below, right click and then paste below. And then you can rename it, ensure that it's the one selected at the component section. This is space 2 copy, a copy of space 2. So just rename it to space 3 or to whichever name you choose. So that's how fast we are going to progress. Now, after register with us, we have a text box, or we have a text box whereby you input your username. We have username, email, and password. So we'll go to the user interface section and drag a text box. Drag a text box, drop it there. So this is called text box 1, but we want it to hold username. So rename that first. Okay, so I've dragged and dropped a text box in the screen from the user interface component, and then I'm going to rename it to a username text box, not text box 1. So I'll just rename it to username text box, or you can rename it to username txt. It doesn't have to be a long name. So I'll just put username text box like that, and then rename. Remember, separate words with underscore if you want to separate them, but you can use one word. So after we've renamed to username text box, let's change a few components there. Since we're using a dark theme background, go to background color and select white. You can select a white background color. Fantastic. Then scroll down to height. Scroll down to height. Let's give it a fixed standard height of 45 pixels. Then give it a width of 80%. Now you have to type the percentage for it to be 80%. So type 80%. And then the hint. If you look at at what we have here, there is that enter username. And I'm sure most of you have seen hints in text boxes, like search destination. There is a hint. A hint is used to just give a user like a direction of what they're supposed to input there. So a user will be able to know that I'm supposed to input a username there. So when they click there and they start typing, of course, that hint will disappear. So give a proper hint. Don't just leave it to hint for text box 1. That will be the one that will be displayed. So change that to enter username. Enter username. Then hint color, we want to change it so much. And then input type. This is what we are going to look at so much. Input type, it can be a normal text. It can be a password. Of course, this is not a password. It can be a name. Of course, you can change this to a name. And then we have email input so that it customizes your keyboard into an email, like, to capture email. We have passwords. It will obscure your text. By obscuring, it means that it puts those dot so that someone cannot see what you're typing, okay? So we have password, number password, we have date, time, decimal number. Decimal number means the one that has, let's say something point something. We have phone number and then postal address. So for now, we'll just leave it as normal because it is a username, okay? Then you can choose between multi-line and read only. Yeah, read only, it means that a user can put anything there. Multi-line means it goes to the next line if you type. For now, it will just be on one line. We don't need a multi-line text because you're not typing paragraphs. Fantastic. So that is input type normal. And then what else? What else are we supposed to change? Nothing. So far, what we've done is background color, white. Then we've given it a height of 45 pixels, a width of 80%, and changed the hint to enter username. Fantastic. So we need to put a space there again. So just right click on space 3 and copy, and then click on the username text box, right click and paste below. And then click on the space 3 and rename it to space 4 or whichever name you prefer. So I've just copied space 3 and right clicked on the username text box and chose paste below, and then selected the space, the copy of the space, and renamed it to space 4. Now, we are going to also copy the username text box. Why? Because we want to have similar properties. So just right click and copy again, then click there, click on the on space 4, right click and paste below. I think I've pasted let me let me undo. I think I've pasted the wrong yeah, it happens. So right click, copy space 3, and then paste below. That is let me rename that to space 4. I'm sure most of you are now ahead. And then right click this, I'll copy, and then click on space 4, then paste below. So we have a copy of username text box. So we'll rename that to email, because we want to put an email there, so that when you go to the backend, we know that we expect an email in this text box. So I'll just write email text box, email text box, then rename that. So for email, of course, let's start by changing the hint. Hint is enter email. Then input type is email. When you're typing an email and you're using a normal, the normal, what is it called? When you're typing an email in your phone and you're using the normal keyboard, you'll find it a bit hard, because for you to access an @ symbol, you have to change the keyboard and select the @ symbol, something like that. So for the email, it will place all the characters that you need there. That's why we are changing the input type. Then right click again on space 4, copy it, then click on email text box, right click, paste below, and then you can rename that, ensure that it's selected. Space 4 copy is the one which is selected, then rename it to space 5. Fantastic. Now we are going to put in the password text box. So just right click on email text box again, because we want them to have the same properties in terms of background colors and width and height. So copy email text box, then right click. So for example, if you've pasted somewhere that, or let's say you've chosen duplicate, it's also an option. If you choose duplicate, you can just drag it to where you want it to be. It's also an option. Duplicating is also creating a copy. But with copying and pasting, you paste it in an area that you want. So that's a bit of a small difference for convenience purposes. Yeah. So instead of email text box, it's going to be password text box. So I'll just write there password, password, password text box. So I'll delete that. Then I'll rename that. So for password, ensure that the hint is enter password. Don't forget to change that. And then input type. Input type is password, not number password. Number password is maybe if you're creating an OTP, like a code, the way if you're using an Uber app for the first time, and a one-time code is sent in your phone. So yeah, that is number password. But here it's just the entire password. Yeah. Then after changing that, Duplicate space again. Duplicate space 5 or copy it. Let me just copy. Then I think duplicating also is much faster. So whichever you prefer. So drag, I drag it, drop it there. So for space 5, I'll rename it to space 6, like that. Fantastic. So after that, what else what else are we supposed to put? Buttons to log in. So if you put a button so that after the username, after the user has input something or their data, you put in a button. When they click on it, you validate first, or you check on a few things before you save in a database. So after the password, we have the login button. So look for a button is the first component at the user interface category. Drag and drop it just below space 1. And then let's give it properties. Properties. So as you can see, for the background color there, it's a bit some version of pink. I don't know. Something like that. So just choose the version of pink that you like, or if you're not into pink, choose any color that you prefer. So I'll just drag it towards the extreme end like that. And I think that is what will be my choice, but feel free to use whatever you feel is suitable for you. So you'll find that it is in the project color there. So anytime you want to use a button, you can give it that background color. Fantastic. And then give it a font bold, and then font size by convention or material design. When you look at material design, a button is always of font bold and of font size 15. But you can give it sorry, you can give it a font size of your liking. So yeah. So for typeface, I can choose just the same. That is font awesome 5 regular, but you can feel free to choose whichever you feel it's suitable for you. Then I'll give it a width of 80%. 80%. So just type in 80 and a percentage, and then a height of 45 pixels, just like our text boxes. And then shape. I always like rounded buttons so that they can have a bit of curves at the corners. But feel free, feel free if you want an extreme square button, it's up to you. So that's the button, and then it's supposed to be register. The text that you're going to give the user is register. Register. Fantastic. So I can see there is nothing else to change in the properties section. So we have to rename the button so that we know it is a register button. Register button. Register button. Fantastic. Then rename it. Now, after the register button, as you can see in the user interface, we have an account login section. So let's duplicate the space again. Where is it? Duplicate. And then you can drag again that copy and then drop it below. And then rename that to space 7. Fantastic. And then since we have a similar button, you can duplicate that again and then drag it below there after this. Where is it? Yeah. Okay, it's not working. Let me drag the space. Yes, like that. So instead of register, we'll rename that to, so for those who have accounts, they will have to log in. So they can go and, directly to the login page. So we can change that to login button. I hope we are together. If you have questions, feel free to ask us. Login. Fantastic. Then you can give it a text instead of register. It should be have an account. Account question mark. Login. By convention, the have an account section is always, it doesn't always have a background color like that. not white, none, like that. So it's just a button with a colorless background. That is by convention, but feel free to put colors that you feel are suitable for you. I'll just come here and copy whatever we have here, copy, and then put it there. There's no harm. Fantastic. And then we can duplicate that space again and then put it below so that our text doesn't, or our button doesn't touch the bottom of the screen. We have a breather space. So I'll rename that to space 8. Great. We are almost done. We are almost done. Now, for you to access images, I know in the web development sessions, you're able to learn about the free tools in which you can be able to access yeah, I mean free tools in which you can be able to access particular images that are not copyright protected, the ones that are free for you to use. Don't just go to Google, type in an image that you want and download. Someone might have worked on it and download, and it's not maybe made available for you to download it. So I highly encourage you to use those resources. So for the image, for icons, we have the ones I think maybe some of you have had. I know most of you have heard of Flaticon, but if you're good at, or flat icon rather, but if you're good at graphics design using tools like Adobe and other graphic design tools, you can feel free to design your own icons. So graphics is a whole field on its own, but it's learnable, it's doable. So you can download any icon that you feel like. So for example, you want to travel a travel icon, you can just search there, and then you can download the one that you like. For example, that is the one that you like, the one which have the kingly icon, I don't know, crown, they are for sale. But the ones that don't have, they're for free. For example, that is the icon that you like. You can just click there and then choose the PNG version. PNG kindly. For SVG requires a special library to read that. But PNG, you can download the PNG version. You can select the size that you want, okay? The size that you feel it's best for you. Choose any icon that you want, click on free download. It's just downloading. We've downloaded things on the internet, a lot of things. So just go and download free icons for free. I like free things. So I don't know, it's taking long to download. Oh, great. So I'm sure some of your icons have downloaded. But it's okay. If maybe mine is taking some time. I have a couple of icons already on my in my desktop. I'll just go ahead and select them and select one. Yeah, they're downloading. So I'll just put it in my downloads, and then I'll go to Kodular. So you just upload assets the way you normally do on your social platforms. Just upload assets the way you normally upload images. Just click on assets there, upload asset, and then I'll go to my downloads. It's in the downloads section. Yes, I'll choose that one, open. And then it has already uploaded. So for us to change the picture, you just select the drop down and choose the picture that you like, and the picture will be nicely pasted there. So that's the gist of what we have done. So for example, that app by I mean, you don't like it. It is at when you click on screen one properties, there is the primary dark there. You can make it even darker if you want to. But that is if you want to, but it's not a must. Just saying, just saying, just saying. Yeah. So it will be the one that is displayed at the top there. So so far so good. So far we have had an introduction to Kodular, the tools and the components that are there. One thing worth mentioning as well is the difference between pixels, percentages, that is on width and height. So the first is, let's start with pixels. As you can look at this image, when you see the icon image, we've given it a pixels. That is 100 pixels width, 100 pixels height. So when you click on a different screen, for example, your screen is smaller, like LG Nexus 5X, you find that it's exactly the same size, or your screen is bigger, Galaxy something, Samsung, let me not use something, Samsung Galaxy S9, you find that it's exactly 100 pixels by 100 pixels. Or yeah, something huge, Microsoft Surface, you find that it is still 100 pixels by 100 pixels. But when you look at, we look at percentages, like for example, this username text box, we've given it a width of 80%. So no matter the screen size, whether you have a tiny screen or a big screen, the text box will give it, will occupy 80% of your screen. The text box will occupy 80% of your screen. Just have a look when we change to a different, bigger or a bigger font size, you find that it is stretched so as to occupy 80% of the screen. Even the buttons, when you look at the buttons, they stretch to occupy 80% of the screen. Okay, so that's the difference between percentages and pixels. So for fill parent, whether you're using height or width, fill parent is exactly as it means. It fills the parent height or the parent width of whichever device that you're using. So if you're using a device that is, let's say, 1080 by a 1920p. So if it is 1080 by width, fill parent means it will adjust itself to 1080 pixels. If your device is smaller, you install it in a device that is smaller, it will just check the device's width to fill it to the extreme width. So if you just have a look at it, for example, if say that this should be fill parent. Fill parent, you can directly access it here, or you can type there 100%. So when you click on fill parent, it will fill the entire width. Yeah, so you can just get it back to 80%, like that. So any questions? I welcome as many questions as possible. If you have a question, feel free to ask as many questions as possible. Any questions so far? Oh, Dawn, it's good to see you. You're saying none from you. That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. If you have done, one thing worth mentioning is if you have done, let's say, other non-coding tools before, feel free to stick by, because the concept this time is a bit different and it will give you more knowledge. Thank you for joining us if you've done this an non-coding tool before with us. So we are going to learn even more, and this will widen your perspective of programming in general. So thank you for the feedback, Don. Any question? Fantastic. Now, our time is up anyway. So I want to welcome our facilitators. Uh, thank you guys for for having patience for us to finish this what can I say, to finish the training. So we are happy to always have you. We have the next session tomorrow at, I think, 4 p.m. We'll confirm it with you. and we'll also be live. So that will be a joint session, and we will continue with what we have done today. Okay, so yeah, I want to welcome our facilitators. We have Mr. Brighton Mosaru, we have Madam Latifa Noor, we also have Mr. Kelvin Chivati. So feel free, the floor is yours. Karibuni sana.
Thank you, John, for the awesome session. I believe those who missed or those who missed something will be able to catch up with the videos. Thank you very much.
Uh, Thank you very much. That's our remarkable facilitator, Mr. Brighton. Any word from you, Madam Latifa?
Good morning. Not exactly. I just want to appreciate the amazing session that we had. Always educative. Let's meet again maybe tomorrow, same time. Not same time, but same place.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Madam Latifa. Mr. Kelvin, are you there? Great. Thank you so much for joining us once again. I'll reiterate that coding is about learning by doing, and coding is something that you need to practice every day if you can. I highly recommend that. So have an awesome day ahead, and we are going to end the live session now. Thank you, and have an awesome day.